Hey, I'm gonna get to it. I'm gonna get to the horizon. It's incredible. I love it, but there's so much energy, so much time, so much money, like that went into this. Is it cool to finally see it coming to fruition? Because you've been working on this how long?
I started this idea in 1988. So, yeah, 88, 19.
19.
You know, I tried to make it in 2003, and for some reason, people don't maybe love something as much as I do.
Yeah.
And because they didn't love it so much, I thought I'd write 4 more, and which didn't make a whole lot of sense to anybody. And so did that.
Yeah.
And they were still unsure about it. And I'm thinking, but I'm not. I'm not unsure at all about you guys and what happens in the dark when you go to see something. Take your kids, take your sons, your daughters, your sweethearts. Yeah. And I was real certain about what I was making. And so I decided that I would use my money and make it. So
I can only imagine what your financial team loved about that decision.
That's why I don't have a team. I just don't need the group. I just don't want to include them in my decision because you know what? It gets in the way of what I love.
No, the art of it.
And so I don't like my fear getting in the way of what I think is a relationship I have with not only myself, storytelling, but I just love bringing original things to the movies.
Yeah, and betting on yourself. I mean, I hear the same thing happened with Dances with Wolves. They didn't actually believe in that at first.
Right.
I'm like, you'd think they'd learn.
I've done this 3 or 4 times where I kind of push all the money in the middle and don't blink, so I'm not bluffing.
Yeah. Well, you gamble well, sir. I was like, yeah. Okay, so you did all the jobs. That's got to be a lot of pressure. Like, you even did, like, was it like production at your house? You had like a whole production kind of running at your house?
It just kind of falls to me. You know, sometimes there's certain jobs I can't do one, but it happens in storytelling. I feel like I can manage the whole process, and I really want to because there's so many things. There's making a movie. At least as a studio or any other situation, it's like a salmon headed upstream. There's all kinds of things trying to kill it, you know, and little decisions, fear-based decisions. No, they won't like that scene. They won't. It's like, no, but they'll like the whole, and things work together. And you know, when I made this Western, it was unusual because usually a lot of them are rush into their gunfight. This has a tremendous amount of women in it, and that's why I took them all to Cannes. They play such a big part in the West. What happened? They were often taken out there on not of their own will, and with their children, and go and on the idea that there was something great out there, and there was nothing out there except a group of people who already lived there for thousands of years. Women, your ancestors were drug into the most terrible of circumstances and made it work. And somehow they don't find their way into Westerns, and in Horizon, they dominate.
Yeah, they really do. And honestly, I love how all the characters you feel invested by the end of it. You feel invested in not just like 1 or 2 characters. You feel invested in all those little stories that are kind of coming together and all chasing that one horizon.
I think that's what we like. When we read these summer novels, right? They just roll over us. That somebody's going, "What are you reading?" It's like, well, this story just keeps going, and they are important. And I officially saw the second one on Saturday. And I can say, actually, that it's as good as the first one. And I was really happy. My bar is pretty high.
Yeah.
And when I saw it, I knew that it was matching this first one. And the third one is going to wreck you. So I hope you take the ride with me on Horizon.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. This is the coolest thing, too. Your son's actually in the film.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that at first, so I was watching it. And then I was like, oh, I was told that. I didn't even realize. It's such a great job. Do you love working with your kids in movies?
Well, I don't not automatically put them in because there's a lot of kids around this country that would die to be in a movie. They work hard in their craft to become, that's what they want to do. Mine have just grown up in this world that I have actually kept them from. So I don't give these parts out like candy to my children, knowing that they have a value. And plus, a person has to deliver in really critical situations. And acting isn't that easy. But when I have a chance, when I have a chance to have my son close to me, I did. It's a really debilitating scene when you watch it.
Yeah.
It's very, very powerful. It's kind of breaks your heart, and at the same time gives you a amount of pride of a son who said, "I will stay with my father to the end."
Yeah, because I didn't want to leave him alone. That's so great. But tell everybody what happens in Horizon, because I'm horrible at spoiling movies.
Well, yeah. Well, look at me. Mine are so long.
You know what I'm going to say? It doesn't feel that long.
It flies. But
it flew.
America was a promise. That's really what it was. came from Europe, right? Why? Is it because they didn't want to live under monarchies and knew they're going to be third-class citizens? But if you could get across the Atlantic, there was a idea that if you got to this big country that was really like the Garden of Eden, you could have something. And that idea permeated over the next 300-400 years, where people just crossed that Mississippi and then kept going with the idea that if they were strong enough, if they were mean enough, if they were tough enough, they could keep what was theirs. The problem is there was people who had been here for 15,000 years who had a way of life, and this mighty clash of cultures that all resulted in a one-sided battle, really, at the end of the day. We lost something, but the truth was, you know, the promise is what kept us going. And just nobody told us that it was somebody else's. And America, it was a journey. You know, when we cross the United States now in an airplane, it's a meal, it's a movie, maybe a quick nap, and somebody says, you got to put your seatbelt on, and we're here. But not then. When people said goodbye to each other, it was goodbye.
Yeah. I have to ask this because I noticed while watching it, well, first of all, I loved like the score during the film, and I was wondering if you had your hand in like picking any music for it, because at the end credits too, I don't know who that is singing, but it's beautifully done, Amazing Grace, and then it pivots into somebody else singing.
Yeah, well, you know, my band put in 3 songs, the harmonica tune, the opening dance, and
yeah.
But we had John Debney, who's an amazing composer, who I want to go back to the old way. I went to Scotland with an orchestra, 92-piece orchestra, symphony, and we did the score to Horizon, and I'll do all 4 scores in Scotland.
It's an amazing thing to be in the room while they're playing. They've done that on some of my records, and I never really knew. You can feel the wind coming from.
No,
like,
it's
incredible.
special, and the musicians play better, and I don't know. It's everything I can do to pour into it, every little detail. I hope you somehow feel it in some way, without even being able to articulate it.
When you watch your film, is it hard for you? Like, it's like me watching myself sing. I don't like doing that either, because then you pick apart and you think I could have done this better. Do you do that?
I don't. The only person that watches the films is the dog. When he hears my voice, he goes to the TV.
One of my dogs actually does watch TV.
He just doesn't want to be interrupted.
Doesn't want to be interrupted.
He just doesn't.
So speaking of music as well, I know that you're musical, obviously. I actually saw you perform once at a fight night thing we were both at. But I heard this, and I want to know if it's true. The Bodyguard. So I know this was years ago, but I heard it's one of the best entrances of any song, like intros, when Whitney sings a cappella. I heard that was your idea.
Yeah. It was. It wasn't that they weren't that wild about it on the record side of things. And I said, well, you guys need to get over that. I said, don't be too sure they won't play it on the radio. I said, but for me, Whitney was doing almost an apology moment at that point. And what better way to let somebody know they really mean what they're singing to you when they say, I don't even need the music behind me. Let me sing to you directly what I feel about you. And of course, the band kicks in, and we know when it does, the hair on your arm stands up.
Yeah.
But that was just a kind of an instinct that I had. Let's not have any music. Let's let her stand out there, just bare, and say, you were important to me at a certain moment in your life, at her life.
And that's what happens when you let creators create, because like you're not even the one singing it, but in the fact that you knew that and you didn't care, like, because I know probably what they said is like, they won't play it on radio, because that's what everybody says. But, and then it turns out to be like literally the biggest soundtrack ever made, but sure, they know what they're talking about. But it's the most beautiful thing to just hear something so simple and unprotected and vulnerable. And I had to ask this question. Have you done that for other films? Are you really involved in like the music side of things?
Yeah, I pick music all the time. It's hard sometimes, to go up to a world-class, composer and say, I'm not kind of liking this. And it's like, ooh. But I will say something. You know music. You may not even be a singer, but you know what a great singer is. I know you do. And you might not even be a great athlete, but you can tell a great athlete when you see one. And music is so kind of universal that, you can have a conversation with a world-class composer and go, it doesn't sound right when it comes to film. By itself, the music sounds beautiful, but when you lay music against a piece of film, it sticks like glue or it doesn't.
It needs to feel like a duet.
It just sticks. And I would trust the audience as much as I would trust somebody to say, like, well, you can't tell me something's good if it doesn't feel good. It might be beautiful music, but it doesn't stick.
Absolutely. Well, before we go, you also have a coffee out now.
Yeah.
Yeah? I've worked, is it with Green Mountain? I've actually worked with them before.
Yeah.
I went to Peru with them and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and found out like how coffee is made. I didn't know any of that stuff.
Yeah, well, I've never really done something like that, but if people kept asking me to do something, I said, well, I drink this. Why don't we do this?
Yeah.
So that's why I don't have a team of investors. You know, I'm my own marketing person. Why don't we just do this?
Yeah.
And there's no votes, there's no decisions, everything. But, you know, look, you live your life, you run it. And it's hard. We can always seem to run other people's lives better than our own. But it's hard, this world. But, you know, the truth is, just have as much joy as you can, risk as much as you can, and just live with it. You know, find the joy in your families.
And being authentic. Like you said, you wouldn't dive in unless you really liked it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I won't either. I don't support anything unless
it's
I'm
like
into
there's,
it.
you know, you got to be. It's like a nice garage in here.
I'm just saying they're all over. Yeah, they're behind you as well. So I'm just kidding. You're like the third person I've done that to.
Here we go.
All right, we need another break. Everybody, give it up for Kevin Costner. Alive from American Saga Chapter 1 is in theaters June 28th and Chapter 2 premieres on August 16th. Be sure to watch in the movie theater.